The Denver Nuggets bench unit, always a kind of a bane of the existence for the Nuggets during the Nikola Jokic era. It has waned and waned and waned over the course of these last few years, and it has been pretty bad over the course of these last couple, save for Bruce Brown, who the Nuggets lost at the end or during the offseason last year. And in replacing him, they added Reggie Jackson, or they kept Reggie Jackson around, and they added Justin Holiday, and they drafted a variety of young guys and decided we're going to try to keep the status quo. Swipa, was that the right decision?
Here's the thing. I remember we were both sitting together in media day after the championship. We saw this big fat, trophy, and Calvin Booth said that his plan was to win 3 championships in 6 years, 3 and 5, 3 and 7, 4 and 7, whatever. He wanted to win sustainably. So he believed in drafting Christian Braun, Peyton Watson, Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson, having young assets that you can build and develop and grow in house. And he even said in this press conference just about a week ago now, after the Nuggets lost in Game 7, I think those guys just need more burn.
Still
That's
believes
what it
in
comes
it.
down to.
I thought it was interesting. That was an interesting point.
And so I'm looking at it like, well, the Celtics, do they have young players in their rotation? Let me think. Peyton Pritchard?
That's the only one. He's the equivalent of Zeke Naji, except he actually he performed after his extension.
Right. Xavier Tillman they traded for he doesn't play a lot, but they traded for him anyway. They went and got Derek White. Yeah, he's pretty important. He's not super young either. And then obviously Kristaps Porzingis is another star level player on the roster. Like
Hauser.
Right, Sam Hauser, Luke Cornett and all that stuff. But they've also had Josh Richardson over the years. Like they were in the Aaron Gordon sweepstakes at one point. The Celtics are the definition of we're not selling.
Reload.
They're every year we have a core is JT and it's Jaylen Brown. And then every year we are going to fortify them as best as possible every single year, including with Kyrie Irving. Isaiah Thomas obviously had that one year that he was there, 16, 17. Sure. They're not playing. And even now, getting Kristaps and then getting Derek and then getting these other players are oh, what's Jason Tatum's weaknesses? Oh, great. Here you go. I think this is the thing with Calvin Booth. I just think that you have a generational player. That's the reason why you won. And you had the starting 5. Jamal Murray's been with Jokic since 2016. That's why you won. But I think some of this is a little bit of hubris and a little bit of I think you got caught in your own sauce a little bit. And I had no issue with Christian Brown and Peyton Watson being in the rotation.
Yeah.
I told you all year that Reggie Jackson is not the kind of player you can just depend on to be your 6th person off the bench at 33 years old. As good of a person as he is, he's a really good player in spots. He was actually good as a starter this year. But Reggie Jackson is just simply not the kind of player that Jamal Murray needs next to him. We've already seen this solution. That's why I was so confused when Chris Dunn and Dennis Smith Jr. and Nikhil weren't on this roster. I'm just looking around but Jamal needs a defender next to him. So what are you thinking? And then Jalen Pickett's also, I don't believe in I legitimately said the plan has to be having Reggie on the roster. You just knew Jalen was going to get the minutes over Reggie at some point because there's no way they would have went in the offseason and said, this is it. And they did it. And it didn't work. And it's not even just costing them in the playoffs. They could have won more games, Ryan, which would have put them in the 1st seed if they would have had a better 6th option coming off the bench. I get Christian. I get Peyton. You got to develop them, but brother.
I do understand that. I will give Calvin the benefit of the doubt here. They just did not have the financial feasibility to be able to do that. And I don't think that Dennis Smith Jr. or Chris Dunn is actually that person. You need somebody that has a little bit more pop. You need somebody that has a little bit more points that they can throw out there, that they can create a little bit more. That's what the Nuggets needed too. And so they decided that Reggie was the best option. And ultimately, I thought he did fine. He filled in as a spot starter for Murray. He helped them get through the regular season. He was never really going to be a playoff player, and he only played 9 minutes per game. So I understand why they did it. Now, though, it's about where you kind of go from here. It's about where what the actual plan is going forward. Because what Calvin Booth said, as you so eloquently pointed out, it's 3 years or 3 championships over 6 years, 3 over 5, 3 over 7, whatever the number is. You want to have sustained dominance.
Mm-hmm.
And Jalen Pickett didn't play. Colin Gillespie, like, he played 200 minutes. He played twice as much as Jalen Pickett did. Hunter Tyson didn't play.
Right.
Julian Strawther, I think, would have played had he not gotten hurt.
Right.
But I don't think that these young guys played enough in order to justify them, like you saying, oh, they're definitely going to be better. They're definitely going to be awesome in the years going forward, because we just don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah, but don't you think that if you take your financial institution, Ryan Blackburn, I know the numbers, I know the charts, excuse me. If you take that hat off, I don't care about none of that, bro. You got Jokic on the roster.
Yeah.
You got Magic on the roster. You got Kobe on the roster. You got Jordan. You got LeBron. You got Akeem on the roster. You got Bill Russell on the roster. You got Will Chamberlain on the roster. You got Larry Bird on the roster. I don't give a dang about you penny pinching or your financial flexibility. The Celtics do it all the time. We see it in the NFL. The 49ers do it every year.
Yeah.
The Eagles do it they just got Saquon Barkley.
Well, as we talked about in one of our previous videos, one of the things that's the problem for Denver is that $35 million is tied up to Porter, $35 million is tied up to Murray, and $50 million is tied up to Jokic. And that's like, you just don't have as much flexibility in order to add some of those other extra pieces that you need in order to make that happen. That's not a fault of anybody. It's just that the Nuggets accurately pay their players. And that's just how this thing works, man. So I think that for this Nuggets team, they've got to find more ways to add bench depth.
I think the thing that we kind of separate on, if I look at, so Denver does have money tied into its starters for sure. Golden State does, Minnesota does, Philly does.
Yeah.
Well, they will now. Philly will now, but they have that slot obviously now, so they're going to get Paul George in there. By the way, I don't know why this is just like not being told about. They're going to get Paul George, or they're getting Zach LaVine. I don't know why this is secret. I don't know why we're acting like this might not happen. Phoenix, obviously, but even Phoenix, Phoenix got a bunch of money tied into the starters. They got Bradley Beal on the roster.
Well, that's why they lost to the first round.
One time, no, they didn't lose because of Bradley, just because of Bradley. They lost because their team construct.
It's because they don't have the ability to add anybody else.
Okay, but if you're asking me, I'm not getting Bradley Beal next to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. That was their problem. That's James Jones.
It was stupid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You get a better player with that money, then whatever.
Yeah.
But I think some of this is, bro, like, I think they're just going to have to be a little bit more, look, it's just we're going to have to just be a little smarter with our money. I mean, I get it. Like, I understand it. But at the end of the day, Joker ain't going to care about. But the thing is, he's currently with his horses right now. So obviously he's living his life. So I know he's making money. He got a championship. He got 3 MVPs. He's loving his life right now. But as somebody who wants to see him in this conversation, you just got to do more. And I know it's just, you got to be smarter. You got to get it done. It's just that simple.
I know I think he's going to try. Like, they're going to do what they can. I don't think they're going to try to break up their starters. I think they're going to try to improve their bench, and they're going to try to do it in the best way possible, which is just add more optionality, add more guys. And that might involve some trades. That might involve cutting some people. It might involve letting some people go that you wouldn't have necessarily expected at the beginning. So I'm curious to see how they handle it, but I do not think that the way to do it is just to let Julian Strawther, Jalen Pickett, Hunter Tyson develop into those guys, because they're not there yet. And asking them to be seems like folly.
But then Matt Moore also, our brother Matt Moore said to me, like, well, if you're going to do that, then if you're going to rely on rookies, why are you relying on rookies 21, 30, and 29? Go get a good one. That's my thing too. Like, if that's the plan, well, go get J-Dub at 12.
Yeah.
You're telling me OKC wouldn't have traded you like for 12, or you couldn't have got on the Derek Lively area or something like that? If we're going to do that and say that, oh, well, this draft class sucks anyway. Okay, well then why is Cody Williams not going to be in Denver next year?
Oh, they should have gotten brother Jaime Jaquez Jr., man. Like, that's like 18th overall pick or however where he was. Like, that was the guy if you're looking to add a veteran contributor in the way that they had done previously. So look, this is a learning moment for this front office. I think they screwed up. I think they have to be better. And they have 5 roster slots, including Colin 6, but 5 that were just young players that were just like, and most of them weren't playing. Yeah. It's tough. Like, Denver needs to be a more veteran team. They have to capitalize on this moment. There's some balance that they have to have because of the CBA. I'm going to put my nerd hat back on. Like, it's the easiest way to have cheap contracts. It really is. And so hopefully one of those guys breaks out and hopefully they pick the right one. But I got to imagine that they go for more veteran options, veteran minimums. And I hope they get some ring chasers, man. I look at a guy like Eric Gordon. I look at a guy like, I don't know, Chris Paul, somebody like that. Like, go get a ring chaser. Go get somebody that's willing to sign for the minimum and help your team and go win a championship. And I think that Denver has never really done that before. It's time. They got to go get those guys.
Yeah. So we'll see. Let us know what you think in the comment section. Do you think the Denver Nuggets should reboot their bench? Who do you think they should go after? Do you think this really just comes down to the money, or do you feel like it takes a little bit more heart than just the money? But let's talk about that, y'all. Mile High Sports, Ryan, Swipa. See y'all on the other side.